Wonderful. To take about 10 seconds or so. And we're live streaming.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the May 9th Cvta Technical Advisory Committee meeting. Vice Chair Dyrona Moore-Clark, and I will be chairing this meeting in place of Mr. Ure, who's hopefully enjoying himself right now. Ms. Firestone, could you please do a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Give me 1 second. I'm letting another person in, and let's see. All right, Town of Ashland, Miss Amos.
Here.
Thank you. Charles City County, Miss Russell. Mr. Mitchell. Chesterfield County, Miss Smith.
Here.
Miss Walker.
Here.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman. I believe we have Mr. Coleman, but I'll check back. Mr. Goyne.
Here.
Thank you. Hanover County, Mr. Vadunez.
Here.
Mr. Flagg. Henrico County, Chair Ure. Ms. Smidler. New Kent County, Mr. Stodder.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Leduc. Powhatan County, Mr. Shardine.
Here.
Thank you. City of Richmond, Vice Chair Clark.
Here.
And Mr. Bridewell. And 1 second. DRPT, Ms. Dubinsky.
Here.
Mr. Wagner. VDOT, Mr. Mann.
Here.
Mr. Riblet.
Here.
Ms. McAdory. Virginia Port Authority, Ms. Nelson.
Here.
Thank you. GRTC, Ms. Torres.
Here.
Ms. Sink.
Here.
RMTA, Ms. Dean.
Here.
And Plan RVA, Mr. Parsons.
I'm here. We also have another couple of guests with us. Mr. Brown and Ms. Page are with us today.
Thank you. I believe I got everybody on the roll call. Mr. Coleman is the only person I did not get a response from.
Janice, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Madam Vice Chair, that concludes the roll call, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. And was Sharon Smiley here for Henrico?
She is here. I have marked her present, but you're right. I also did not hear a response from her.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. And I have you marked as present.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Mr. Parsons, would you do our opening statement regarding the virtual participation?
Yes, thank you. We are holding this meeting virtually. We do have a means through the Zoom platform for people who are not members to attend and participate. There's a Q&A tool at the bottom of the screen. Questions can be entered at any time, and staff will be monitoring that box. We also have an opportunity for people to register ahead of time if they would like to provide feedback to the group. At this point, I'm not aware of anybody that has registered in advance.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to item 1, consideration of amendments to the agenda. Do we have any considerations to be entertained? Okay. With that, do we approve the agenda as presented, Mr. Parsons?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve today's agenda as presented?
So moved. Art Smith.
I think that's Ms. Smith at least. And then I did hear Mel. Do you want to second that?
Second,
What's your name?
Austin.
Okay, thanks, Austin. Okay, we got a second, and Ms. Firestone, would you take a roll call vote?
Yes, hold on one second. Miss Amos,
Aye.
Miss Smith,
Aye.
Miss Walker. I'm sorry, I'm not
Yeah, I
going to
don't
call the
vote.
alternates.
Yeah.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Vadunez,
Aye.
Miss Smidler,
Aye.
Mr. Stauder,
Aye.
Mr. Shardine.
Aye.
Vice Chair Clark,
Aye.
Ms. Dubinsky. I'm sorry. That concludes the roll call and the motion passes.
Awesome. I think we can briefly go to item 2, which is the approval of our April 11th CVTA TAC minutes. Is there a motion for approval?
This is
Tom,
Laura
motion to
Smith.
approve.
So moved.
I couldn't hear. It was both at the same time.
It was
Tom,
Laura.
motion to approve.
Okay, did you hear that, Janice?
I did not. I heard the first time that I know Miss Smith was making a motion. I didn't hear who was trying to make the second. But I believe it was
Laura made the motion and Tom.
Oh, Nora,
might be
Tom.
willing to second it.
Second.
You.
Okay, thank you. 1 second. Okay, Miss Amos,
Aye.
and let's see, Miss Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Vadunez,
Aye.
Miss Smidler,
Aye.
Mr. Stauder,
Aye.
Mr. Shardine,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Clark.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes as well.
Okay, great. Let's move to item 3. This is our public comment period. Do we have anyone that is signed up or who's here today to speak for the public comment period?
Madam Vice Chair, we don't have anyone registered to provide comment, and the virtual attendees are both local jurisdiction staff. So I think we can move on to the next item.
Okay. Item 4, the CVTA TAC Chairman's Report. I don't have a report today. So we'll move on to item 5, CVTA TAC Staff Update. Mr. Parsons.
Thank you. I just wanted to provide a brief update on the voting tool. At the last authority meeting on the 29th, there were some questions about the effectiveness of the tool. So I wanted everyone here to be aware that that staff and legal counsel have been going through all of our records back to the first vote in August of 2020 to last week, and are reviewing the actions taken and are going to be prepared to discuss this as needed in the next few weeks. I think that we are confident in the way the tool was set up according to what the interpretation of the code was. And there will certainly be lots more conversation with authority members, finance committee members, and TAC over the next few weeks as we take the next steps.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Parsons, for that update on the voting tool. And we look forward to getting any additional feedback from the authority members, finance committee as well, for TAC consideration. So if there are no questions, we'll move to item 6, the regional project prioritization. We wanted to, I guess, we can somewhat discuss these items together. I did want to talk about item B, Mr. Parsons. I wasn't sure if PFM was actually on today or what exactly PFM may want, or what that item specifically was, or if it's still in conjunction with items A and C.
Yes, thank you. I'd be happy to address that first if that's what you'd like.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 6B, we included this in the agenda in anticipation of any discussion that might need to take place. I did have a briefing call with PFM after the authority meeting on the 29th and was able to review the proceedings of that meeting and get their counsel on any steps that we needed to do immediately regarding financing options and consideration of how the funding scenarios can move forward. Following that call, it was probably premature to include this in the agenda. I think that there's still going to be some time to consider multiple options possibly for considerations in the future regarding financing any projects beyond just the PAYGO method, which was that for everyone who wasn't available on the 29th, that was the scenario being discussed, was a 4-year PAYGO. And I think that they are up to speed and are probably watching this on YouTube. So they'll be ready to be called in whenever the timing is appropriate to assist in those conversations.
Okay, perfect. Does anyone have any questions for Chet? I think Austin has his hand raised. Mhm.
So I guess what was the purpose of the funding scenarios, the PAYGO 4.6 and then the bonding 4.6? What was the purpose of us approving those, I guess, to go to the finance committee?
Well, that's a great question. The TAC did not actually, if I recall correctly, did not make any recommendation to the finance committee. The purpose of having those scenarios in front of the TAC was so that everyone would be aware of possible options.
Right.
And Mr. Euro was at the finance committee meeting, prepared to provide background and support for the finance committee members as they deliberated on what their recommendation might be. And that did ultimately come from that slate of scenarios that TAC discussed, which was the 4-year one.
Okay.
But yeah, I appreciate that. There's a lot.
A follow-up to that is like the PAYGO 4 that went to the policy board on the 29th. I guess was it premature to send that to the policy board, considering the finance committee had yet to make a recommendation as to which funding scenario was going to be chosen in the long run?
No, the finance committee recommended acted to recommend that scenario that the authority considered, and that's what was put forward for a 15-day public review period following the finance committee meeting. So that's what the public was able to review. That's what the feedback was on. So that's what was in front of the authority.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions on that item? If not, I will continue out of order and take item C, and that's the I-64 existing project application detail. And I think that for this item, along with maybe some information that has come out from the full body, we would be potentially discussing in the future, or at least trying to lay out today what we understand as the project details for the I-64 widening project. And I know that we were looking to seek additional information from from VDOT. And so Chet, do you want to address that item and some of our next steps for that item?
Yes, happy to do that. So where we are now with the multiple different funding streams and applications regarding I-64, we know that the application for Cvta regional fund consideration was for the, I believe it was FY21 estimate of the entire stretch of the gap in New Kent County, which was 396, almost $400 million. The smart scale application that the TPO submitted for review, the pre-app, was for just the section between 205 and 211, which was obviously a smaller dollar amount. This was the project that was submitted in the last round. So we had all of the existing information, all the background, all the application details for the smart scale side. So that was the pre-app that was submitted. We are working with VDOT to see if there is any opportunity to provide any flexibility in that application, if that's something that would be desirable. I think there's merits both ways. A smaller project, say between 205 and 211, could score better based on cost benefit and what they ask and the leveraging options. But there's also an argument for recognizing the entire need for the whole gap. So I think that conversation is ongoing, and we did get the pre-app in on time. So that's in the hopper, and we're working with VDOT to understand what our options are from this point through August, when the full applications are due. And then that's what we have under our control. We know there's lots of other funding streams that are at play across the state and through other sources. So staff is looking forward to working with those parties as much as information becomes available, and we're able to get better clarity on what the needs are going to be.
And I think I have a question from Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. One question I had is, and this may be directed to maybe Mr. Mann. My understanding, current best estimates is we're thinking about $750 million is the cost of the entire, to fill the gap, the 64 gap. I know I hear Mr. Parsons referencing the fact that there was optionality as to whether you could do a smaller application for just the a segment, or whether or not it would make sense to submit something for the entirety of the gap. Do you have any insight into that? I guess the thought was that, and I think the way that the secretary is thinking about it, but of course there have been different ways that the application has been put into smart scale, is that a $100 million investment relative to the $750 million project, relative to the benefits, would likely score well compared to a significant investment in a segment of the 64 project. So I don't know, Shane, do you have any insight on that? Or I have had some conversations over the weekend, and I know that folks are really thinking about the project holistically and not simply in segments. But
yes, sir, Madam Chair. I think Mr. Brown is right. I think there's two ways to look at it. Again, you got the whole project, or you got individual segments. I know VDOT had originally looked at it, I believe, in 5 different segments is how we originally had it broken down. I know I've got some meetings this week and next to kind of discuss VDOT's philosophy on a whole or partial scale, but I think everything Mr. Brown said is correct, and I'm not sure which way the secretary is. I know the secretary wants it all done. I'm just not sure whether he's looking at one big bite or several small bites. So, Mr. Brown, I don't know that I helped your or answered your question very much better than what you had already said, but that's kind of all the information I have at this point.
So Madam Chairwoman, I'd raise one other question. I know that I've seen projects put in multiple formats in the past. And so the question would be, could the TAC consider the project in two different models? One, a holistic model, meaning an investment in the entirety of the gap, so that you could receive the entirety of the benefits, and then an alternate application in segments. And would it? I know I've seen projects submitted in that format. Actually, I think I've even seen the 64 project submitted in that format, such that both applications are in and can be scored and considered.
And just to quickly, thank you, Mr. Brown, for that question. And I would just have to slightly lean on Mr. Mann and Mr. Parsons, in that I know that the pre-app application period has closed for Smart Scale. So are you talking the two different models specifically for CVTA regional funds, sir?
Yes, and we have some flexibility at the CTB on that. So I think the critical piece is making sure that we can go through the CVTA process appropriately. I think the CTB will have flexibility as to how to consider the project, whether holistically or in segments.
Okay. All right, thank you. We have additional question from Ms. Myler.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Secretary of Transportation, is my understanding, met with some county administrators to present information on I-64 to the CVTA board. So they met with the county administrators, and it was agreed that some information on I-64 would be presented to the CVTA board. And I think it would be great if that was shared with TAC as well, because the more information we have, I think we can make a better decision. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I do think that we have gathered some information, one, getting additional information on what the Secretary, some of what his needs and insight are for the I-64 widening, with flexibility in seeing how either partial or entire alignment of I-64 widening scores, whether that be something we can accomplish with CVTA regional and or with Smart Scale as well. And then really getting some additional information from VDOT on the funding and the schedule. And I think all of those elements would lead to potentially the full body directing the TAC to really address this issue further. So I think that we do have an upcoming finance committee. So I don't know how much will be discussed in the finance committee on this, as far as when some of this information will be collected. But I do think that this item is an information item for us today, as we think that, again, we'll take these items of what we find our needs and potential options to get us where we would like to be for the region and this I-64 widening. We can then, again, address it at the TAC and the technical level and seeing what we can do to move forward. And I think that kind of leads us into, if there are no additional questions, leads us to item 6A, which really, without, I guess, more additional information, we can't really discuss additional scenarios because we could take that information to help us decide on how best to fit this project into our regional funding models. So with that, I think we've covered all of item 6. I'll take any additional questions if we have any at this time on that item. All right, seeing no hands. We're moving to item 7. This is the discussion on the FY23 final allocation plans. Mr. Parsons?
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to once again thank everyone for getting me your most updated information. I think we have a little bit left to do on the allocation plan for FY23, but just about everybody has submitted. We are getting it. If you want to, we are in the next quarter. So if you have third quarter updates in terms of this current year and expenditures, please feel free to pass those along to me, and we'll get our database updated. I have heard from a couple folks, but we're good on second quarter. We're just now and then the never-ending cycle of updating information. And then we'll be working over the summer on getting the certification forms out for everyone to put in front of boards and administration regarding FY22 certifications. If you recall, we got behind a little bit on FY21 and didn't get those out immediately, but we're going to do better this time and have those out for consideration once July 1 rolls around. So that's a brief update, Madam Chair.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Parsons. Again, a reminder to all of those that are making or having CVTA local funds being expended to please get in your third quarter financial updates per the, I guess it's the bylaws or the financial policies, one of those. And then also, as well as preparing ourselves and preparing our, I know the city has about a 2-month lead on getting stuff in front of council and getting it signed. So preparing ourselves for that annual certification as well. And it may seem close, but again, we are looking to stay, get in front of it this time. So we'll move to item 8. This is a fall line working group update. And just quickly with that, we did have 2 awesome location public hearings for the fall line, and they were well attended. But I will let Mr. Gregory talk about the technical or the behind the scenes things that really are going to get this project moving along. So item A, Ctb Agenda Items for the fall line.
Madam Chair, I'd recommend possibly calling on Mr. Mann for items A and B. I can speak to it, but I think he may have more detail.
Even for the spa? Okay, Mr. Mann.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Getting back to the agenda, sorry. Yeah, CTB agenda items, basically where we're at is we're working with Mr. Gregory and his team to get the spas put together for the design build north section. Once we get those finalized and the Cvta and VDOT legal sides are good with those, we will get them on the agenda for the CTB work session at the next available opportunity. So they'll go to the work session 1 month and then the actual CTB action meeting the following month. So we have a 2-month process after we do get those finalized. I believe Mr. Gregory can follow up for sure, but I think we're in pretty good shape with those and just about done with the SPAs for the north section. But I'll turn it over to Mr. Gregory for a final update there.
Thank you, Mr. Mann, Madam Chair, members of the committee. He's correct. We have the draft SPA. We're working on it. It's under review right now. So I believe we're in good shape going forward for those next steps as he described. And then the next step will be then to work from that SPA on the SPAs as is suggested in the agenda for the various for all the localities in which this project will take place. The north and south portions obviously are higher priority. And so we want to get the VDOT Cvta SPA done first, and then we'll focus on the locality SPAs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gregory.
Yes, ma'am.
And then just another update for the fall line. We hopefully will begin programming we'll begin to program other segments of the fall line in the upcoming meetings with the fall line working group. So we will keep you posted on that. And of course, just to bring everybody up to par, there are, of course, segments of the project that VDOT will administer, and then some localities such as Henrico and some portions of the projects Richmond are administering as well. So we are working to move these projects forward. And so VDOT currently is doing a design build for the north and south segments for the fall line trail. And then there's an operational analysis going on in the city of Richmond. And then Henrico is also furthering some of its design. But those are just certain segments of the fall line. And what we hope to do in the future is really start to look at the dollars that we do have and put those dollars on projects to keep those other segments moving forward as well. And so we are going to be looking to the localities to, if you have priority segments, to really either bring those forward to the working group so that we can begin to look at and see which of those we can begin to fund right now with the dollars that we have. So I'll just say that for the fall line working group. So we're kind of coming to an end. We're at item 9, the Cvta TAC member comments. Are there any comments by TAC members?
Ms. Clark, do you mind if I ask a question? Not super TAC related, but Ched, do you have an update on the hiring process for a staff person?
I can relay what was shared in the meeting on the 29th. There is a, I don't know if it's a subcommittee or a working group, but Ms. Page and Mr. Spoonhour shared an update that interviews, I believe, are scheduled for the next couple of weeks, and an update will be brought back to the authority in June. I see Ms. Page is here. If I'm saying anything wrong, please feel free to correct me.
Thank you, Ched.
Yeah, and Nora, just to add to that, I think that the Ms. Page and Mr. Spoonhour were bringing maybe 2 or 3 people to the chair, or that would be going through those interview processes. So we are down to about at least 2, 3 or so people. So I think that it is moving forward. And I have Madam Page. She would like to speak. Ms. Page?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, in that process, Supervisor Spoonhour has sent out an email today, as a matter of fact, to schedule tier. We are doing it in tiers. We have 3 tiers, 1 through 3. We have 5 candidates in tier 1, and we will begin those interviews on either the end of this week or next week. Those interviews their first round of interviews will be virtual because we have several of the applicants that are out of state. And so we will be doing that. And once we do that, then Supervisor Spoonhour, myself, and the HR roundtable will then narrow it down, and we will pull in people for in-person interviews. And then after that, we will be bringing either the top candidate or the top 2 candidates before the full body. We will be recommending, let me put that. And we hope to do that by our June meeting.
And check, thank you, Ms. Page. And check for the June, were we still looking to potentially have an additional June meeting?
Yes,
Full
thank
body?
you. We are working now. The Finance Committee meeting for this Wednesday was canceled to allow more lead time for members to consider what they need to consider. So we are looking at the week of the 23rd of May for the Finance Committee. And then once we're able to get that scheduled, then we'll look at a June meeting for the full authority, but it'll be a few weeks out from then. So we're expecting mid-June sometime to try and get a meeting together. Obviously, it's very difficult to find the date that works for everyone. So we're crossing our fingers.
Okay, awesome. Do we have any additional member comments? All right. Seeing none. Our next meeting, item 10, is going to be on June the 13th. And seeing no further questions, this meeting is adjourned. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.